So a lot of people ask me about our advisor IQ mortgage assessment. And the honest truth is that a lot of people start the assessment because they're curious about their business. But as they go through it and they start to realize that they don't know how to answer the questions, they've never asked those questions of themselves before, or they have a realization that the answer might be no, and that's not a good feeling. And so I want to just express that the average loan officer taking this assessment experience these questions differently. They don't experience this as an assessment. They experience it as a mirror that they didn't ask to look into. These are questions that most were never trained to even conceptualize. It's a comparison where they're looking at their business against this unknown ideal state, and that's an uncomfortable feeling. So what happens, in my opinion, is that at first they think, okay, this is aspirational. I'm going to try and do some of this. And then the no's start showing up, right? Maybe more than expected. And then what I think happens is a lot of loan officers, they feel exposed, not educated. And again, that's not a feeling most people want. That's a shut the computer moment. If they don't know what good even looks like, then all this assessment does is it just has them realize, well, maybe I just don't have that, but I don't know what good actually does look like. And then they start getting into some of the questions about economics and control over their business and margins. And this is where we see a lot of people just pull out. This is where you see them stop. They stop answering questions here because they'll start to realize they don't understand how they're paid. They don't control pricing. They've never actually seen a transparent revenue document. So when we ask them if they've seen the purchase advice document, they don't even know what that means. And so it's easier to just be like, oh, this is recruiting. I'm out of here. They start to normalize the fact that, you know what, it's fine if I don't know these things. It's not. And I know that when most people take that assessment, it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like, well, am I naive? Have I been blind? Is everyone else ahead of me? And look, I want to be really clear. When you take this assessment, that shouldn't be shame. That should turn into curiosity. It should really encourage you that, oh, there's a lot I don't know. And then when you start getting into the tech and the scale and the leadership and the ownership section of the assessment, by this point, most people have been answering almost all no's. And they start to feel small relative to the business that they thought they had. And that is not a feeling anyone wants. And look, being the creator of this assessment, I can't even honestly say that I would keep taking it if it made me feel like I didn't have control or like I didn't know the answers to things or that I thought I had this great business. But in reality, after answering a lot of these questions, it made me second guess that. I don't know if I'd want to keep going because the questions, they start kind of almost describing a different profession. And so a lot of times when people get to this point, quitting feels like a self-protection mechanism. Well, I'm just going to stop taking this. This is stupid. This is recruiting. It's not, I promise. This is a assessment that helps you unearth information that was never given to any of us. And what's actually happening when people quit is that there's something kind of underneath them that's a little bit deeper. If they've answered no too many times on this assessment, they feel like it's an identity threat. Because look, mortgage professionals don't just do this job. They are this job. Hear me when I say that. I've experienced that for so many years. The 14-hour days, the away from your spouse and your children, the computer on the vacation. You genuinely identify as a mortgage professional. It's not just something you're doing. It's something that you are. And what this assessment unfortunately says to a lot of people is that the business you believe you've built may not actually be a business. That's existential. That's when people start feeling behind, they start feeling uneducated, they start feeling structurally disadvantaged, and they just don't see a path. So the easy thing to do is just disengage. Or they'll give themselves kind of a defense mechanism saying, oh, this is recruiting. Calling it a recruiting tool is really just psychologically convenient. If you're about to take this assessment or you just took it, it gives you the ability to say, I'm not behind. This is just marketing. Why? Well, because that protects your ego. That makes you feel better about your loyalty to your current employer. It's like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Well, I'm already here. I'm already been here. I've been here for so long. I don't want to think about what I could have done or what could be. So I'm going to have this sunk cost fallacy where I'm just going to not worry about anything else. It's not skepticism, it's avoidance. So the assessment implicitly frames itself as not by any design, but it says like, here's where you are, but it also unearths, well, here's where you could be. And I'd actually go a step farther and say, here's where you should be as a mortgage professional. And if you're not, then focus on getting there with your current company, with a new company, with an old company. I don't care. I don't actually care what company you do it with. I just care that we don't exist as mortgage professionals for the next 20 years like we did for the past 20 years. Because this assessment, quite frankly, reveals what the mortgage industry never taught us on purpose. These questions are not measuring competence, has nothing to do with how much you know or how good of it. Like it just measures exposure to something that most of us have never been exposed to, right? Most loan officers are not behind. They're uninformed by design. And that distinction has to be made explicit, which is why I'm having this conversation. If you have not taken the assessment, before you even get to question number one, please know that if you answer no, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with our industry. And unfortunately, the way it was created. So here's what I want to do. I want you to understand that as you're going through this, you are a competent professional. And I want to avoid you quitting when discomfort shows up. So some of the advice I would give is to realize that no is actually not only a common answer, but it's probably the expected answer, right? If you answer no to most of the questions, that does not mean you're failing. It means you were never taught to build a business that way. You were never encouraged to think outside of what we typically have been taught. And even better, if you answer yes to most of these questions, I'd actually question whether you fully understand them, because there's a reason the average score is 26%. This is really something that you have to understand going into it. Because again, this is a diagnostic, not a scorecard. It's not a pass fail. It's not a ranking. This is about if you're a good mortgage professional or a bad mortgage professional. You have to think of it almost like a financial plan or a medical scan. You don't judge yourself for the results. You use them to make better decisions. So you might be thinking this feels like recruiting, or it feels like I'm being kind of set up to answer no here. Here's the truth. Recruiting only works if somebody understands what they're missing, right? Most people don't even know where the problems lie or what could be. This assessment exists whether you ever talk to me or anybody else or not. And if you stay exactly where you are, if you get better with your company, if you create a better model, if you start your own business, whatever you end up doing, this assessment should help you ask better questions of your current infrastructure, of your current company, of whatever you're building, right? If that happens, then this assessment did its job. So please, as you're thinking about taking this, or if you stopped halfway through, it's okay to finish uncomfortably. It's actually critical. Feeling bad is not the expectation here, because the people who quit partway through, they usually quit because the questions are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, which is it just exposes blind spots. It exposes unawarenesses. And everybody should want to know where their blind spots are, or what they may not be aware of, or where the industry could be headed that they could get ahead of. The clarity comes at the end of this thing, not at the beginning. So remember, discomfort is not a signal to stop. Discomfort is the signal that you're learning. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't even need to take this, right? You could just bypass it. You could throw it away. You could pretend it doesn't exist. But you'd be doing yourself a disservice, because you do owe yourself clarity about the business you're building and whether or not it can support the future that you're looking for. This assessment reclaims that control for you. So if you haven't taken it, please do. If you've taken it and stopped halfway through, I would encourage you to keep going. And when you get to the end, don't be upset. Don't be frustrated. Don't be angry. Just be curious. Curiosity is a superpower, and I'm happy to connect to help you understand how you can do some of these things, where you can improve, what you should be working towards. If it's your own company that you're running, if you're a division leader, you want to be a better leader for your people. If you're a branch leader and you want to understand your economics and be better for your team, if you're a mortgage advisor and you want to know kind of what the next step in the maturation of your business looks like, it doesn't matter where you are. The only thing that matters is what's ahead of us and where we're going. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. Hopefully this assessment is helpful for you. If you have any advice or guidance on how we can improve upon it, anything else we can do to make this more valuable for mortgage professionals, please reach out to us and let us know. Again, you aren't a loan officer. You don't just do this job, right? You are a mortgage advisor. You identify as that. You show up in the world that way. You should be the best version and always be curious about how to get better, how to run a better business, how to have more control, and how to help your clients and be in the best position for you and your team. Thanks.